Happy New Year. Welcome back to Leading Edge. So glad to be with you again. I'm your host, Jeff Smith. Coming up in just a few, a health check on what's going around and what AI could mean to local healthcare in the new year. But first, it's a new year. Coming off the election, we're assuming higher education will be a focus of the new administration. But taking education to greater heights is exactly what our first guest has been touting at Bowling Green State University the last few years. And the results, they're there to back it up. Wall Street Journal says #1 public university in Ohio for student experience. Ranked #1 public university in the Midwest, where students say they would choose it again. Ranked #1 public university in Ohio for career preparatory means. And Military Times ranking it as the #1 university in the Midwest for veterans and active military students. Great to have with us BGSU President Dr. Rodney Rogers. Talk to our folks who are watching today, Doctor, about what that video we just saw. It's titled Momentum, and it's kind of a year in review. But what were they looking at right there?
So what they were seeing, we like to talk a lot about momentum at Bowling Green. And momentum is mass times velocity. So I'm not a physicist, but a couple physics faculty taught me about momentum, right? This idea of mass times velocity. Mass is about bringing people together, collectively growing the number of people that are involved and connected, and velocity is about taking action. And Bowling Green, over the last really decade, we have been working hard on our strategic plan, making sure that we are innovative and creative, and we're finding new ways to engage our students and support our students and grow academic programs. That has created more mass, if you will.
The Falcon could be seen as a phoenix rising from what were tough times. I don't want to say the ashes, it never got to that point, but everybody went through that run. BGSU, the same thing. How has it been so successful in turning this school around?
I think we have always been solid and stable, but the growth that we're seeing in the recent couple of years has really been a focus on innovation and differentiating especially the undergraduate experience. Higher ed, we are not very good at constantly innovating. We're not very good at differentiating ourselves from others. If you look at our curriculum, it looks a lot like Ohio State's curriculum in, let's say, supply chain management or accounting or sociology. We have great faculty, so does Ohio State. They have great faculty. We have great facilities, so do other schools have great. But what we have leaned into is to say what we know is it isn't so much of long-term success of students that are graduating from college. There's data to support this. It isn't so much where they go to school, it's how they go to school.
Yeah, I've got to play off of that because, and I'm going to hold this up at home, it's a terrible printout, but this was featured recently in the Toledo City paper, Movers and Shakers for the new year, 2025. You are listed right here, and you said exactly that. For college graduation, career success and satisfaction with one's like, not to be tied to where they go to school, but how they go to school.
The study was a Gallup, Purdue University and Gallup index. They put this together, been doing it for a few years. That was the conclusion that they keep finding. And this how students go to college is absolutely critical for having satisfaction with their career and their life. It's about great jobs, but a great life as well. And so when we leaned into that to say, okay, so we are kind of the right size of institution. We're big enough to have all these opportunities available to students, but we're small enough where every student has an opportunity to actually take advantage of those opportunities.
You use the word innovation, and you talked a little bit about the programming and as it goes forward. In my mind, I'm thinking, all right, he's kind of formulating this gastropub of higher education where the menu's always changing. Is that kind of how you see it? What is your benchmark going into each year to have new programming?
So we want to make sure that we are going to where kind of that old saying where the puck is going, not where it is
Wayne
today.
Gretzky said it famously.
And so we are constantly looking at new academic programs that are in high demand. So when you think about our School of Nursing, our School of Aviation, the Forensic Science, our new engineering programs in robotics and manufacturing engineering and software engineering, all of those programs that have been developed really started 4 or 5 years ago because we knew this demand was coming. There's a teacher shortage right now, too. Don't forget, teaching is really important for us to have great engineers and great doctors and nurses.
You want these programs, you've got to have the players on the field, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so we were one of the first universities in the country, first in Ohio, to have a competency-based alternative licensure. So individuals who may have a degree, let's say in chemistry, but they want to teach K through 12, they can get licensed to teach in the state of Ohio in a year. So we are constantly looking at where the market is, and we want to move to the market.
There was a program out at Stanford that you found, you said, I really like how this is framed, life design. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so that point about differentiating, we're not very good at differentiating. So we needed to find something that was in the sweet spot of Bowling Green, that Bowling Green could do really well. And part of that was this whole idea of it's not where you go, it's how you go to college. A lot of universities know this, but they do not have a framework or a model that empowers the students to actually know how to go to college the right way.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, as I was reading about this, I'm thinking, now there are career development factors on every college campus. How does this differentiate from that?
So from day one, the freshman year, students, if they so choose, and 85% of our students do, they're put into a course called Life Design. They're assigned a design coach that works with them, gives them a framework using design thinking principles, some techniques that are used in a lot of companies, especially in the high-tech industry. But they're using design thinking to empower the students to go to college the right way, if you will. How to begin to think about a career from day one, not your senior year, but your freshman year. And out of that...
Does that get rid of the exploratory student?
No, in fact, it encourages an exploratory student. Because many times we have a fair number of students that go off to college undecided. This gives them a framework to start deciding. Many of the students who think they know what they want may not end up there. So this technique, if you will, this approach, this framework, allows the students to begin to prototype. We connect them with alums that maybe work in the industry. They're saying, I want to be a news anchor. Well, who do we know that are BGSU alums who are willing to maybe engage with some first year, second year students?
What do CEOs,
who may be interested?
What do owners, what do they think about this? Because I know you have meetings, sit downs with them.
They are energized that we are trying to think about these issues from day one rather than the junior, senior year. Because of a generous support of two donors, about a $15 million gift between the two, we were able to endow two centers to offer this to every student who chooses to come to Bowling Green. It has students and their families respond well. That's part of the reason our freshman class, we saw a 22% increase in the number of students coming in.
Stay right there. When we come back, he's been nice enough to guarantee us another segment here. I got more to talk about. We kind of prefaced everything talking about higher education being a focus in the year ahead. We're going to talk more about that, especially the cost, when we return. Welcome back. Great to have you with us for our first show of the new year. Also great to have BGSU President Dr. Rodney Rogers joining us for another segment. We talked at the break, I wanted to bring up the Innovation Hub, and that was announced by the Governor DeWine administration toward the end of the year, but talking about this great partnership between education initiatives as well as companies.
Yeah, I think the Innovation Hub is a real game changer in Northwest Ohio.
What does it mean for BGSU specifically?
Well, there are two lead academic institutions on the research side, University of Toledo and Bowling Green State University. So it's a great partnership. 5 companies that have either are based here or they have major operations here are all part of it. And it's focused on elevating the research that is being done in the glass industry as well as in the solar industry, 2 important sectors of our economy. So what it means is we will have more opportunities for our students to engage with those companies through co-op interns. We will do more research projects jointly across the 2 universities and the 5 different companies on issues that they find are important.
I had Director of Economic Development Lydia Mahalik sitting exactly where you are months ago, and she said this is really something, and you kind of hit on it a little bit without saying it. The big C's, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, not necessarily benefiting from something like this. This is something that's benefiting Northwest Ohio.
Absolutely. This is, the 3 C's get a lot of attention, and they have innovation districts.
And they
such.
will benefit, but this is something for us.
This is absolutely something for us. And our goal is to elevate the quality of the research being done and to support the glass industry to be the epicenter right here in Northwest Ohio.
Yeah.
And I think when you think about the history of our region and you think about the companies that are still here that are doing amazing things in that space, whether it be for solar, whether it be Owens, Illinois, Owens Corning, Pilkington, I'm blanking on my 5th company. I'm so embarrassed.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
But those companies giving a chance to really engage with us, and that I think this is the future, quite honestly, of higher education. We have to do more partnerships. And Bowling Green, we partnered with Six Flags. We partnered with the Attorney General on forensic science. We partnered with a variety of different organizations, North Star Aviation. This is an example of 5 companies partnering with 2 research universities and Owens Community College on the workforce side that will really elevate and make this the place that will attract talent from the world to come here to study.
You mentioned the University of Toledo going through some transition as far as leadership is concerned right now, but regardless of the battle of I-75, this is an institution that is important to BG doing well, and BG is important to UT doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think higher education, I'm a big believer in the power of higher education. There are so many different pathways one can take. So I'm not saying higher ed is the only pathway. A lot of different pathways one can take to prepare one for a career in life. But higher ed is one of those pathways, and Ohio needs strong higher education. And it's important for Northwest Ohio. When you think of these 2 research universities located in Northwest Ohio, most recent economic data, if you put the data together of the University of Toledo and Bowling Green, it has an economic impact of over $6 billion per year between these 2 institutions. We've got to lean into that, and we've got to make sure that both institutions are thriving and they become even bigger economic drivers for our region.
Speaking of economy, speaking of dollars and cents, you're a former CPA, you look at the numbers. What do you tell to people out there who are just baffled by the cost of how higher education has gone in the last 10 years? Yeah,
higher ed certainly, it is something we worry about every day. Student debt, that gets in the news a lot. Certainly the cost. You know, at Bowling Green, at a public university in state though, because of the taxpayer support in state, our annual tuition and fees for 1 year is a little over $13,000. But when you look at what most students actually pay because of scholarshiping that we were able to raise money for, the Thompson gift. We received a very, the largest non-endowed scholarship program perhaps in the country came to us this past year, Bob and Ellen Thompson, to help working families afford education. When you put all the scholarship on a net basis, the total cost over the 4 years is under $40,000. The average cost of a new car is $47,000. The new car doesn't last a lifetime, an education does. And so while I appreciate and I have empathy for that higher cost that we're seeing, we are doing everything we can do to minimize the cost. And in fact, we put in a 4-year tuition guarantee. So whatever the student, this freshman class that just came in, they will pay the same tuition and fees for the next 4 years, flat. So we're helping families manage that. But we also want to do everything we can do to raise more money And we've had some very generous alums and companies that have come along to say, we want to be a part of this as well to help students get that degree because we want to hire that talent.
I want to spend one more minute. We haven't talked about athletics at all. We know it's a good driver as far as student attendance, as far as fees and whatnot, keeping those down. But in your mind's eye, do you see those two entities being very separate as far as the education side of things, the sports side of things?
For a place like Bowling Green, they're very much connected.
Okay.
And the reason they're very much connected is, we saw a game the other night, Ohio State and Oregon. I think some project there was $40 to $50 million of NIL money kind of playing on those fields. That's a lot of money.
Absolutely.
That's not what we're seeing at Bowling Green.
Yeah.
What we're seeing are student athletes who have come that have excelled at their athletic ability, just like we reward strong academic ability, and we bring people together as a community. Athletics is also a way that brings community together. And we've seen that at Bowling Green, whether through basketball, hockey, football, whatever that's, volleyball. We had a record attendance this past fall in a volleyball game of a
which is part of the video that we showed at the Open.
So I think athletics is an important part of the American college experience, but we're doing what we can at Bowling Green to control the costs too. Because there are some ways where I worry that athletics could become the primary focus and education is the secondary. We want to keep that in balance.
Keep your eye on the ball, more or less.
Absolutely.
Dr. Rogers, pleasure.
All right, thank you.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much for
Happy New Year
spending some time with us. We're back right after this. Welcome back here on Leading Edge. Wash your hands, cough into your elbow. If you're sick, stay home. We hear this all the time this time of the year, but it never works. The CDC reports positive flu tests are up 9% in the most recent week. The cases of whooping cough, they are 6 times the rate we saw last year. That's why we wanted to bring on Dr. Brian Kaminski for ProMedica. Brian, we're talking about these trends. Good to see you, by the way, and Happy New Year to you. We're talking about these trends nationally, and we've talked about them over the last couple of weeks here on the air. We've seen some of that uptick here as well, have we not?
Well, thanks for having me, Jeff. I appreciate being here and being able to talk about this. And we're certainly seeing local trends that are similar to national trends right now. So the question is, what are we not seeing? Because we're seeing just about everything. There's a lot of circulating respiratory viruses right now, a few bacteria, and we're seeing all of it right now. So in years past and in most recent years, when the focus has been on COVID, that's what we've tend to heard in the news and we tend to hear being reported. But there's all these other upper respiratory viruses that can cause infections, some more severe than others. And right now at this moment, we're pretty inundated, meaning that we're seeing a lot of these infections, and it's just a mixture of everything. So, as you mentioned, flu is out there, and whooping cough or pertussis is out there. We're also seeing cases of COVID as well, mixed in with all of that. We're seeing still seeing COVID. We're seeing cases of...
Is it milder? I mean, can you say that at this point for most of the people who get it, or is it still kind of hit or miss?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I don't want to overlook the fact that people who are high risk still can experience severe infections. But for most people, the COVID infection has been downgraded to that of the flu and other upper respiratory viruses. And in fact, the guidance for isolation and staying away for other people is the same for flu as it would be for COVID. So we can look at those, practically speaking, as about the same in terms of severity. But even with flu, there are at-risk individuals who can suffer from severe symptoms and become quite sick because of it.
I said it kind of tongue-in-cheek with, cough into your elbow and wash your hands and all that stuff, but Mom's advice really does stay true, doesn't it, and throughout the course of time?
Yeah, it sure does. The name of the game here is prevention. So, first and foremost, many of these illnesses have a vaccine. So if you're eligible for a vaccine, you should get vaccinated. That's the first thing. And even if it doesn't prevent you from getting sick, it's going to reduce the likelihood that you're going to get really sick or the likelihood that you're going to spread it to other people. If you do happen to get sick, some of these things are more contagious than others. Most of them are spread through respiratory droplets and particles. So the most that we can do to avoid avoid direct contact with other people, especially people who might be at risk. Those things really do work, and it's important to do that if you are sick.
Is there any link to where we live, the region, and some of these things getting worse, the way we respond to them? Allergies. I've been told for years, because we're a black swamp, that allergies are going to be worse. You're going to have a more, I guess, intense flu season. Any of that?
Yeah, so first of all, we're well out of the allergy season.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody that has the sniffles and runny nose and cough, the likelihood, in January of it being related to allergies is really, really low. It's more likely that you have a seasonal respiratory virus. And being in the Midwest, we do experience both, and we're no different than any other part of the country that, is, inundated with people who are grouping together and sharing those illnesses amongst each other.
Makes sense. I wanted to talk in our last minute and a half about AI with you, and just kind of from a ProMedica standpoint, what discussions are happening, if you can share any of that with us as you go forward into 2025. We've got video of robots across the country that are being, included in daily health care, things happening in other parts of the world, but what do you see happening? I can go on ChatGPT and say, I've got sniffles, I've got this, I've got that, what do I do?
Well, first of all, I think that with artificial intelligence and medicine, I think the sky's the limit. I think we're just scratching the surface.
Are you saying that positively or negatively?
I think it's going to be a mixture.
Okay.
I think it definitely is going to help us, but given the fact that there's so much unknown and we don't know what steps are going to be in place before we get to this desired future state, I think there's going to be, a bit of a rocky road. I think there'll be stumbles along the way. I think we'll get some things right. I think we'll make mistakes along the way, and I think that we'll learn from those, and eventually this will get a lot better. I think that 5 years from now, we'll look back and look at some of the tools that we're using right now, and they'll seem extremely basic compared to what's promised in the future with AI.
Yeah.
And the truth is that we're using some of it right now. We're already scratching the surface of this and beginning to implement some AI in our systems, but there are so many other possibilities that exist in terms of its application to healthcare.
It'll be fascinating to watch it kind of play out here in the new year. Brian, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back for a final time here on Leading Edge this week. A reminder, if you missed any part of our conversation, you can find our WTOL 11 YouTube page, and Leading Edge episodes are all over it, including the one we just dropped about a week ago, a year in review of 2024. But now we're looking ahead. Great to have you with us. A reminder, you can also find us as a podcast. I'm Jeff Smith. We hope to see you next time right here on Leading Edge.